All right, guys, so this first exercise is gonna be your split squat. So I'm gonna go through this video and I'm gonna demonstrate the different heights and objects that you can use to execute this exercise. Overall, all these different options are gonna be based on where you're at currently. So it's gonna give you some options to kind of, to customize based on your needs as we go through this, but I also wanna make sure that I address all the fine points of the split squat so that way you do them correctly, okay? The first and most obvious gradient for the split squat is gonna be front foot elevated. And this box is probably, I'd say probably about 12 inches high or so, okay? So I'll start with some of the finer points. So what we wanna focus on is this back leg, is extending that glute, so squeezing that glute, and trying to keep the knee as straight as possible. It's not gonna be perfectly straight, but you do wanna have the intention of basically keeping that leg as straight as you can without the knee touching the ground, which isn't gonna so much be a problem on the front foot elevated when it's this high, but as you go up in progression, that's something you're really going to want to focus on. The other thing is that when we squat down with this leg, we want to make sure that we're getting full calf coverage with the hamstring while keeping the heel on the object or the ground, okay? So I'll just demonstrate a couple reps. And as you can see, I'm not using any weight or anything, all right? But keeping my back leg straight, knee going over the toe, and trying to get as much coverage of the calf with the hamstring while keeping the heel down as possible, okay? So you can start with no weight. Then one of the best and safest options for doing split squats is going to be with dumbbells when you want to start adding weight, just because of if you have any balance or stability issues, you can just drop the dumbbells and you can get out of the exercise pretty safely, okay? So now I'm gonna demonstrate it on a slightly lower box, okay? And I'll just switch legs here. So all the same cues apply. I'm trying to keep my back leg as straight as I can, trying to get as much calf coverage with the hamstring while keeping the heel down and keeping the chest up, okay? So this really is just your squat on one leg, but the benefits are improving the hip extension of the trail leg, okay, while obviously strengthening the quads and the hamstrings and glutes of the front leg, while also improving the range of motion of the ankle and of the hip, okay? So as you can see, dumbbells right by my side, pretty comfortable way to do a split squat, okay? So now I'll demonstrate kind of the final progression of the split squat, which would be with a bar, if you choose to do it with a bar, and then from the floor. So again, this is really where you're gonna start wanting to focus on keeping that back leg as straight as you can. Also, something to note is when you take your stance for your split squat, don't go too narrow with the legs because it's gonna be really hard to balance. So, you want the feet at the very minimum about hip width apart, if not just slightly wider than that, okay? So that way you have a good solid base where you're nice and stable. You're gonna go down, all those same cues apply, trying to get as much coverage of that calf with your hamstring, okay? And keeping that back leg as straight as possible. Now, as you can see, I have flat trainers on, but if you wanna use a squat shoe, like an Olympic lifting shoe, to do the movement, you can do that as well. I don't have any issues with that whatsoever. And there's actually benefits to wearing an Olympic lifting shoe that you're not gonna get with a flat shoe. So if that's something you wanna do, you're more than welcome to wear Olympic lifters. But that is the split squat. So a couple pointers again is I'll shoot from the side, making sure that this back leg stays as straight as possible, okay? Chest is upright, and most of the weight and movement is gonna go through this front leg where I'm trying to go down, get as much calf coverage with the hamstring, keeping the heel on the floor and trying to keep this leg as straight as possible. As you can see, my leg's not perfectly straight, okay? That would be perfectly straight, but just using that glute and using that quad to kind of extend that back hip to really get a nice stretch through the hip flexor while simultaneously working on the mobility and the strength of the front leg, and that's gonna be your split squat.